welcome to Joan of Art, the weekly podcast where we investigate and celebrate people who make art. Hey everybody, welcome to Joan of Art. I am so thrilled. Today is episode 4. However, it's the launch of our podcast. So we've had 3 episodes that we've banked that you can listen to on the liveandsocialnetwork.com website. But today we are live streaming, and I have 3 incredibly talented, dear friends here to talk to you for this weekly podcast hour, talking to people who make art. I have Venus DeMars, who is a multidisciplinary artist, a musician, writer, painter, you name it, she does it, and she is definitely a legendary and epic artist here in the Twin Cities. Welcome, Venus.
Hey, thank you.
We also have Anthony Sabalas, who is joining us, and Anthony is a poet and a recent grad of Hamline University. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And Lynette Rainey Grandel. She is here too. She too is a poet, an author, an extremely talented and celebrated writer. So Lynette, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Joan.
So I wanted to say one of the things, besides the fact that we're live streaming today and how exciting that is that this group of people all live under the same roof. So that's really exciting. Venus and Lynette are married, and Anthony is their housemate. And so I thought this would be really fun. We're going to talk to each of these very talented individuals one by one, but they might jump in because they know a lot about each other. So anyway.
Yeah, it may be too much. I mean, we could go way over the top if you want.
Just be careful.
Right.
We got ammunition.
That's great. Hey, let's hear it. Okay, so I want to start with you, Venus. You and I have collaborated with each other the most out of the 3 here. And we've done a lot of really cool things in alternative spaces. And I have to say that my history of doing storefront projects and putting artists in alternative spaces is a tradition that I think you helped establish in the Twin Cities. Which was why it was such a great, just a natural go-to to come to you to do things. And so part of your history and a place where I like to start is that you were a very prominent artist doing work in the downtown area, and that you were one of the core artists that was a part of the Rifle Sport Gallery.
Rifle Sport, yeah.
And I guess I'm wondering if you want to talk a little bit about the stuff that you did at Rifle Sport, just to give a little bit of a history of how, I mean, we're talking like 2.5 decades ago?
Yeah, it's a long time. It was the mid-'80s. Rifle Sport was a great place. I had just broken up my first band, which I'm not going to name because everybody thinks that All the Pretty Horses is my first band. It is not.
Right.
I actually was working in music a long time before the Horses.
Why aren't you going to give the name?
Well, because nobody would know. I mean, well, maybe somebody
People
will.
from the
they can,
80s
they can write into comments. You can write comments on this, right?
Yeah. You can send your questions. Yeah, go to Joan of Art Podcast on Facebook.
All right,
and send
so
your questions.
There's your trivia question.
My old members are still out there, and there are people who remember. My first band was called Straight Face.
Wow.
Of all names, right? And this was before I came out as who I am, trans. This was way back in the mid-'80s. It was a very scary world, and I was fighting my own demons as well as the demons out there in real public. So it took quite a while to untangle all of that. But that band, that was back in the late punk, early new wave era. And so we kind of moved between those 2 genres back then. And our thing was that we were inspired by kind of the kabuki stuff. That was my synthesizer player back then that was really into all of this Japanese visual arts and all this stuff called viz art. Viz rock was Japanese viz rock back then, and I think it still is. But they based their stuff on the old kabuki traditions and face painting and stuff. So we kind of tried to do that. So we had like white face with all of these detailed black eyeliner designs on our face, which for me was great because I was trans, I was exploring makeup, I enjoyed that. And I was very androgynous with that application. Still in the closet. But the audience just thought Kiss when they saw us. They had no clue what we were doing. And so we actually dropped that for the last year of our existence. But we were around in the 80s doing all the clubs back then, all the punk bars back then. I won't go down the whole list. But anyway, nobody remembers us because we only got to a certain level and then we broke up. We started in Duluth and relocated to Minneapolis. And after that broke up, then I went into my synthesizer player, Charlie Bailey, found Rifle Sport, which was just getting off the ground, and he let me know about it. And I went over and met Colleen and Bill, it was Colleen actually at that very first time, and showed her my slides. Yeah, back then it was slides. I showed her my slides.
Right. For the kids.
And we lived in an apartment out in North Minneapolis, near North, so it was like scary, but cool, you know.
Yeah.
We felt rough and tumble, and we had this. We turned our apartment, which was the first floor of a duplex, into a studio. And I put an installation up in there, and I had this big painting, oil paintings all over, my great big, 12-foot by 8-foot paintings all over the apartment. And we invited Colleen over to see it. And she loved it, and she took me on as one of their artists, and I got to be one of the main artists for that gallery.
And you've stayed downtown this whole time. It's not like you've gone away because you've maintained a studio in the warehouse district. Am I right?
Yeah.
And you still are there.
Yep. After Rifle Sport ended, and I did the big blue doors on the front, and that was my public art. And then I did stuff in alternative places in town. So I had a big show after Rifle Sport closed. It relocated over by the Loring Park, but there was some internal issues and it all fell apart. But I had a big show at what used to be called Cafe Solo. And I don't know if anybody would remember that, but it was like almost 24/7 coffee shop, fancy coffee shop cafe downtown, right on Second and
maybe Third Avenue.
Second and Third.
Were you doing the trans paintings then? I mean,
yes,
So
I was
wow.
already. I was all throughout. I was working with the trans images as I was emotionally untangling it, and then finally physically untangling my trans identity. So I had a show there, big public show with all of my big things, and people were furious. They didn't like the penis that was on all of my paintings.
You still struggle with that.
I still do.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
It is crazy. Come on, catch up, people.
But then, I got my studio down there in the warehouse, which used to be the real warehouse district and real warehouses.
Right.
And I've maintained that and kind of survived the whole explosion that's happened downtown.
Yeah. So I have to ask you to tell the car story because it's like my favorite.
Oh, the car in the stairwell.
Yes.
Yeah, we had a Honda Civic back when they were really cheap cars, and I had one. And it started not running well, so I turned it into an art car and painted everything, the interior, exterior. I took the speedometer cables all apart and pulled the speedometer out and redid my whole speedometer dashboard, everything. And we took that, and I couldn't get into one of the shows in the monthly calendar there, and I really wanted to have an art show. And so and then it was Colleen and Bill. Bill and Colleen got married and co-curated and owned the gallery then. And I talked to both of them, and I said, well, what about the stairwell? How about if I do an installation of the stairwell? And here's my idea. and part of it was I did the full painting of the whole stairwell, both levels. It was on the second floor. And then part of the idea was that I would take my Honda Civic and drive it up the stairs and park it halfway up the stairs. I thought I would get it up to the landing.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, because I mean, people do this all the time.
Yeah, you always, you know. I've seen
You knew exactly how it was going to go. Okay.
So I made these ramps out of 2x6s, and we worked it all out, and we had to take out the whole brass railing down the middle of that first staircase to the level, and we had to time it. I think Lynette says she remembers driving it. We had to go the wrong way on
Hennepin.
On Hennepin when that was a one-way.
Okay, I didn't know Lynette was driving.
We did it like at dawn or something, basically.
Yeah. Just as it opened, we timed it all. We were all there, sleepy-eyed. You turned around, came down, and we jumped the curb, had the front doors open. Me and Bill were there, and then you had to gun it to get it up there.
I was driving because I wasn't strong enough to push it if necessary. I think you guys had to be there to do pushing, and then you had these chains that you were going to fasten it all together with.
And anyway, we ended up only getting it up onto the full 45-degree angle, but the back wheels were on the floor. Right at the beginning of the stairwell, and we had to chain it up, and we were all sweating, and Bill was just like, "Oh my God, this is like insane." Once it got in there, and you could hardly squeeze by it, and we chained it all up, and then the doors just shut.
All right.
Just shut. I was totally illegal. But we got it all done, and then I finished off the installation. I incorporated, put an animation TV in the driver's seat, an animation loop, and for the opening, people had to squeeze past that car to get all the way up there, and even the police that were on the beat there on the old E block, the old rough and tumble E block. Would open up the door and point to it and laugh, and then close the door again.
They just couldn't believe that somebody had the gall to do that. Oh,
and word spread on the street, so there was a lot of people that would open it up and point and laugh, and then they'd call other people and point and laugh. And
sounds like it was a success.
It was wonderful, and I was able to get under. I'm always looking for the back door to get into things, and I was able to squeak in under the wire for that show.
Well, you are so installation based. I mean, I think I love everything that you do, but I especially love your installation work, and I know that's work that's really hard to get opportunities to do installations.
It's so difficult to get installations now. I would transition things completely into an installation, wall, ceiling, floor, sound, everything. But the galleries now, this is back in the 80s and early 90s I was able to do this, but the galleries just, they don't know how to sell that or promote it or do anything with that. And
but you and Lynette collaborated on a really cool installation in New York.
Yes.
So, and you guys were just recently out there. Can you tell me what you guys made there?
Lynette, why don't you?
Well, we painted the hotel room. There's a great hotel that I want to recommend to everybody, as long as you don't mind. Well, it's not quite like, it's not the Holiday Inn, but it's a great location. It's called the Carlton Arms, Carlton without an E in it. Carlton Arms Hotel, and you can easily Google it. It's an art hotel. It's on
CarltonArms.com.
Yeah, 25th Street and 3rd Avenue, so very near Gramercy Park area, Murray Hill, and not too far from Union Square, things like that. And you can walk everywhere. Anyway, and it's entirely affordable. About half the rooms have a shared bathroom down the hallway. Half of them are private. And
but the thing that you have to know is that it's an art hotel, meaning every room is an installation. Every hallway is an installation. Every shared bathroom is an installation. Every shared shower is an installation. The lobby is an installation. Every square inch has art. And they're artists from all over the world, a lot of them from Europe. Because it kind of caters to the European style of hotel.
They even have some early Banksy on the walls.
Wow.
Yes, that's kind of like on the hush hush, but it's there.
Right.
It's
Wow.
It's
there.
on their website.
Yeah, it's on their website, but it's his older style. So,
Okay.
but yes, yeah. I mean, it's big names, people there, better known maybe in Europe, but I don't know.
When did you first put your room installation up? And was it a collaboration initially?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 2002. Our room is 5D, number 5D, top floor. That's the Egyptian floor. And I would go out there touring with the horses, all the pretty horses. Lynette discovered the hotel. We were going to go to one of the classic ones, Hotel 17 or Chelsea, and they were all booked because we wanted to be rock and roll. We're out in New York.
Heck yeah.
And Lynette found this, and nobody knew about it. And we said, all right, let's take a look. And it was brilliant, and we fell in love. And we were the first band that they had in their hotel, so they were all nervous about us. They didn't want, like TVs thrown out. There were no TVs in a room back then, but you know what I mean.
It's a good thing.
Trashing the
Fans
rooms.
would have been thrown out the window. They didn't even have air
Yeah.
conditioners then.
No air conditioners, nothing. You had to walk up, no elevators.
Wow.
Walk up 4 flights with all of our equipment, all of our amps, everything. Crazy. My band still talks about it. It's all the members that I had back then, anyway. But we fell in love with the place, and after a number of years of touring and staying in a number of different rooms and falling in love with the Egyptian floor and the top floor, I talked to the managers who we had gotten to know by then and said, "What do you ever like have a room that you want to paint? Do you ever have anything new? Because I'm an artist and I would love to do something." And again, it was slides back then. It's still 2002.
Yeah.
So I showed them my slides, and they said, "Yeah, we could do this." And we it took I think that was in 2000, and it took about 2 years for them to finally get a room and set it all up and work out a time. And they gave us like a 2-week block. So of course I brought the band out there for the first week, and we toured, and we basically whitewashed over the old art that they had decided was not selling it all. And then I did the concept of the installation. It was basically installation version of my full trans people. 3 of the figures. There's 4 now because this last month we upgraded the room, and I
Right.
added another image. 2 images actually, and an octopus. So there's 2 octopus in there now, and
It's
4
lovely. You can see
trans
photos
people.
online. I don't know if all the new, if it's been updated since you guys touched it up, but I have looked at the website and I've looked at
gonna
your
put-
room, and I'm like, this is really cool.
I'm going to put the new ones up.
Okay.
I'm going to put the new ones up on my site, and I'll let you know
All right.
when that's ready. But yeah, so I did all of that painting. Lynette did all of the poetry, so she composed poetry
I
for the room.
painted backgrounds too. Do you
And-
know how many stars
Yeah,
I
and Lynette
painted for you?
helped. Lynette helped on the star background.
Credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
I would get her to do the hands because I couldn't do the hands.
Oh,
no,
funny.
I just-
No. That's
no,
not
no,
true.
no, no.
Oh,
That's like the old world. Master artist and assistant artist. No, I didn't do that.
Lynette,
I
what
did
kind of
everything.
stuff did you? What kind of poetry did you?
Well,
was there a theme?
I basically, it was about love, though I didn't realize it at the time. I did a lot of early poetry that's in there. There's one actually it's an earlier version of the first poem in my book. And then just phrases. I discovered that things look better as phrases, not necessarily the entire poem, because if you're looking at a wall, you're not going to see you're not going to read it the same way. You're going to see like a line or a phrase or something like that. So I added a bunch of stuff this time, and I was really paying attention to that.
That's great. That makes sense. So they're kind of like quips, and you can like move around. in the
Yeah,
room and
yeah,
take
and I
it
put
in.
some runes in the room because I've been studying Nordic runes. So basically, the Nordic runes mean something like, if you treasure community and love your family, you will receive the gift of joy.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Amongst the flying trans people, which is great.
Yes, and there's stories about that. 2002, we came in 2003. Probably at the end of 2003, I put this in the beginning of 2002, so it was almost 2 years span. But we came there one day, and some artist, I believe it would have to be an artist, had stayed there and had gone out and bought paint to match my paint and meticulously painted out all of the penises.
What?
Yes.
That is so insane.
And brilliantly
and
done.
secretly, so like, and it wasn't noticed because it was so well done.
But I came there late night. We got into town late night, and this was just Lynette and I. I was maybe doing a solo recording thing. I was my producer Barb Morrison at that time lived in Brooklyn, but she's out in New York, and I was recording out there with her a lot. So it was probably one of those times. But it took me a second to say, like, wait a minute. There's no penis on my angel. Oh. And then I looked over and there's none on this one. And I went to the bathroom where the other one is, it's gone too. I was like, I thought the hotel had done it and hired somebody because it was so well done. And I was like, oh my God, well, I couldn't sleep that night because I'm thinking in my head, I'm going to have to tell them I have to take it down. I have to whitewash this. I can't have this up with my name on it. I can't do this. This is wrong. And so I sweated that whole night wondering what I was going to say in the morning, and I presented it in the morning, and they were shocked. They had no clue that had happened. They all had to run upstairs and take a look, and they were just like, oh, my God, you're kidding.
That's great that they were supportive, though, and
they
that
were.
they were like, I mean, obviously they were because they knew what you were making.
Yeah, so I repainted all of those penises, and they gave us that trip free and paid for the paint, and I repainted. So they're all second-generation penises.
Oh my goodness! But then they also put a warning on the door.
I had to
right?
I had to paint a full warning on the door that said, "Do not alter my paintings. Do not change them if you don't like it. There's trans people in here. Choose another room. Don't alter my paintings. I am transgender." And I had to put that out. And this was the time it was back then.
Right.
It was like you really had to wear your armor anytime you went outside, even in New York. And those things did happen. And because it was so artfully done, I think people respected me as an artist, but they didn't recognize that I might be trans. That was too bizarre for people to think of back then. And so they did. Whoever did it probably never crossed their mind that they would be insulting me directly, and they may have never thought I would ever see it.
Right. Well, that's a very generous perspective.
Well,
I think because I think it's terrible.
It is terrible.
Who would alter someone else's
painting? And it was a
violation,
but they tried to do it well. They didn't just exit out. They weren't
it didn't
violent
seem aggressive.
about it.
Yeah.
On that sense, but it was a complete shock.
Yeah, I bet. Well, moving on to current day, you're still working and doing a million different things. You released an album this past spring.
Flesh and Wire.
Yeah,
yes.
and it was a little bit of a departure because, well, first of all, we're used to hearing your music via your band. So this was quite a bit different than anything you'd done before. Can you tell us how it was different?
Acoustic, yeah. It's an acoustic album. First one, solo acoustic. Out of all the albums I've done previous, that was all full band recordings, and this was the first time I had done that. So I brought Barb, my producer, out to Minneapolis. We went up to Duluth and we recorded at Sacred Heart Studios, and then we spent the next week mixing it down in my studio in the basement in Minneapolis, and invited a couple acoustic artists, guests to come in, including Laura Jane Grace. Did the harmony vocals for Take My Shoulder, which is also released as a 12-inch single on vinyl, which is great. I'm so glad vinyl is back.
I have a signed copy.
Yes. But we did have to do some things over the internet, like for Laura, we had to do that over the internet because she's busier than me.
And Laura Jane Grace is a nationally recognized
her
trans
band is
musician.
Against me, yeah.
Yeah, okay, Against Me. And I wanted to bring up the fact, too, that Venus, for our listeners, that you've traveled internationally a lot.
Yeah.
And that you've toured Europe several times and way back when, and as a trans person. And so I think, one of the comments that I've heard before is that it feels like I think you're very well known here, so it's not to say that, but that you have an audience that's much broader than the Twin Cities. And you were recently in Bisbee.
Yeah,
right?
Bisbee, Arizona, way down by the Mexican border.
Yeah, you were a resident artist in Lynette. Were you participating too down there? Or you?
I did a reading. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
You guys do, it's cool how much to see the support that you guys have for each other's projects all the time. Like, I really appreciate that. My husband and I are both artists, and it's so helpful and such a luxury. It can be hard sometimes too.
Yeah.
But so anyway, with this acoustic record,
Well, that's unfolded a whole bunch of things. So I've been doing some one-off touring because I don't have I'm the record company, so I can't really do that kind of full-on touring that a regular, big, large corporate record company can do. I have to do it myself. So I do one-off things, smaller things. And I do want to do one more before the year is done. So I'm trying to do a drive too, but that's a lot of work. So we'll see how much I can do.
Yeah.
But yes, it's unfolded a lot of stuff. And one of the things that unfolded was my work with Nick Lincoln, who's a choreographer and dancer locally here. He's done a lot of projects, and he's got he's part of the Momentum series at the Southern Theater, which is new dance work. And he's created a new piece, and his vision was to have me perform my music in some fashion. And we didn't know, like 6 months ago or more, even almost a year ago, he started talking to me about it. And as that year progressed and he thought about it, it resolved into me playing songs from that acoustic album on my acoustic guitar live. And then he did want to bring in just a couple more things to vary it slightly. So I have one new composition, which is a flamenco piece that I wrote.
wow.
So I was reteaching my. I used to play, very elementary flamenco as a kid, but I've forgotten all of that, and I've always wanted to reteach myself and try to improve a little bit. So I have done that, and I've a little bit, and I've written a piece for this because he wanted something more classical. And I suggested flamenco because it's so much more rhythmic, and I think, and then he wanted one electric piece, so I do a solo electric song as well. So 9 songs that I do live, and he's choreographed 9 dances around those 9 pieces.
Wow.
And the transitions between. It's just we're all very excited and we're all exhausted from working on it. And it opens at the Southern 8 o'clock. I think we're the second of 2 performances on the 16th, 17th, and 18th.
Coming right up.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we're going into Tech Week. I'm actually going to our final rehearsals tonight after we do this podcast. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our listeners, you can see Venus perform this new piece with Nick Lincoln at the Southern Theater. And Venus brought her guitar today.
I did.
So I wonder if it wouldn't be a good time for us to take a moment to listen to, I don't know what you're going to play. You can give us an intro?
Yeah, I have no idea. Let me think. What should I do? I can't waste time. I'm gonna do what?
White Horses.
Yeah, I'm gonna do White Horses.
Lynette knows.
We'll just do it. That's my song about love and tragedy and us. You're crying again, still trying. I'm hollow again. I'm watching, the stars are in the blue horizon. and falling. I'm thinking of stars so distant, seen from Saturn. You're asking, your heart is breaking, do I love you? You're screaming, it's 4 a.m., we're drunk and stupid. White horses are running away from white horses. White horses are running away from white horses. Horses are running away from white horses. White horses are running away from white horses.
Wow. That is an incredibly moving song. I got a lot of chills, and I've heard that song several times now, and it's always so moving. So thank you so much, Venus.
Thank you.
Venus has a show coming up at the Southern Theater. If you want to see her, it's the 16th, 17th, 18th.
Yes.
And it's Nick Lincoln's work for the Momentum Dance series. That's very exciting. But also check out venusdemars.com, right? If you want to purchase the record.
Yeah, or iTunes. Everything is on iTunes,
Okay.
so you can and CD Baby and Amazon, I believe. Just Google Venus de Mars and Flesh and Wire.
Awesome. We're going to take a little break now. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Joan of Art, I hope that you stay on with us as we talk a little bit more to Anthony Ceballos and Lynette Rainey Grandel. When we come back, thank you.
The term foodie can sometimes come across as a tickle pretentious. BT and Lydia are here to demystify the term and reclaim it for the sake of good food. Their weekly podcast brings in fellow foodies and culture creators from the Twin Cities to talk about all things food. Find this duo only on the Alive and Social Network.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back online, along comes this hit show.
Do you want to do this? I will do this.
Jamie, let's not battle our guests.
You're being nice.
Yeah. In a world full of hit shows, this one's the real deal.
I'm refusing to engage in an argument that doesn't exist.
I'm not arguing.
Twin Cities hit show.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Hey,
See, this is how fights start on pedal pubs. This is exactly.
Throw whatever.
He's just all that redheaded anger just came up. It's all in his chest right now.
The Twin Cities Hit Show airs live daily, 9:30 to 10:30 on the Alive and Social Network.
Oh, Shannon, welcome to my world.
Hey, we're back with the Joan of Art podcast. Today is episode 4, but it is our launch of this new podcast where we investigate and celebrate people who make art. We will be interviewing artists from throughout the Twin Cities and beyond. But today, we have 3 very special guests with us. We have Venus de Mars. We just heard a very beautiful song that she sang. We also have Anthony Ceballos, who has joined us, and Lynette Rainey Grandel. Anthony, it's your turn.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for coming on the Joan of Art podcast
Thank you.
today. So I met you, actually, I think I met you outside of Venus and Lynette.
I was with Lynette. It was at an event. What was that at the city center in the place where you are?
You brought Anthony the Maid Here birthday party. They had a party.
Was it,
Okay, that was great. So I met you there, but then we ran into each other again at KFAI Studios. For the Fresh Fruit show that Dixie Treacle does.
Yes.
Okay, and so you're you live in the Twin Cities. You're actually housemates with Venus and Lynette. That must be an awfully fun home.
It really is. It's very exciting. Very creative.
Yeah. And so you recently graduated from Hamlin with you got a creative writing degree, and you're a poet. You're Native American and queer identified.
Yes.
When I first met you, you read a really beautiful poem on Dixie's show, and I believe you just are continuing to work on a body of poetry.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to talk about some of the themes that inspire your work?
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Well, I'm writing a lot about just kind of just growing up Native American and with a single mother in a single mother-run home, and then just kind of untangling a lot of that as I've kind of reached, some form of adulthood, and just kind of, almost. Quarter-ish adulthood, 25. Anyway, and yeah, just trying to untangle a lot of that and what all of that, I guess, means to me, and what I've seen just growing up, And right now, I'm trying to kind of piece together this kind of larger body of work that really talks about kind of, identifying with all of these different kind of versions of, I guess, myself, being Native American, being gay, being Hispanic, growing up with a single mother, all of this stuff, and kind of what it means to try to balance all of these different kinds of spaces and the navigation that it takes, because, it's easy to feel pulled in one direction and then suddenly think, oh, but, what is this area kind of like about? And then, am I not enough of this person? Am I not enough of that person? And trying to find how to identify with all of these different things, which alone in itself is just a whole kind of thing.
Can I just break in here? I think your work is just remarkably strong because you are really good at observing details, and you grew up in South Minneapolis, not too far from South High School, is where you did most of your growing up, and you still walk and bike and take the bus everywhere, and you write about the people you observe, and it's fantastic.
I love it too. That's a really good summarization of. So, you have a lot of stuff to talk about as far as that. That's very intense to, coming up in a. And I'm sure your mom worked really hard, and you witnessed a lot of her struggle, and that probably is like a place that you kind of like. It was your life, right?
Yeah.
To be a part of that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's a huge part of what I write about, especially my relationship with my mother. My mother did a very wonderful job of raising me and everything and all of this stuff, but there was a lot of a struggle, but she still managed to, pull through and, raise this kid very, very well. And, part of me and the writing that I do, wants to pay kind of homage to what she's done, as a single Native American mother, doing it on her own. I think that's such a it's such a task to take on.
The odds are so stacked against you.
Because her family was fractured, and so she's dealing with that generational fracture.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the writing I do definitely, some of it, a lot of it, does, want to kind of, highlight, the job she did as, a mother, because, I feel like, being a single mother, in that situation is such, again, a huge job. And, I, just want people to, be able to acknowledge that and, kind of, yes, this is a huge job, because I often wonder if single mothers get enough of that kind of acknowledgement.
I think it ends up being kind of stereotypical, and I think that's why your observance of details is so helpful, because you kind of take it out of that.
Well, and as you're traversing the city, also like Lynette mentioned, you are seeing a lot of single mothers too, as in your travels, and so it's kind of in your face. I mean, it's we all see it, but maybe don't interpret it or have it touch us in the same way. Not all having experienced that same path. So, wow, yeah. I mean, I think that's really beautiful that you think of it that way, and that part of that lens is that it's that you want to pay tribute to how hard she worked and to acknowledge. I think that's really beautiful and inspiring. So I know you brought a piece with you today to read. Do you want to move into that?
Awesome. So this is called The Hands of Two Brown Men. The hands of two brown men are positioned just so, feathers resting against a spider's web, delicate yet severe, waiting to grasp a hold of every dream that passes on the other side of an aging bus window, are a brilliant spectrum of the oddities of time. One is scarred, cracked and broken, dried, wrinkling slowly as if a leaf dancing at the edge of the sun. The other is a fresh coat of paint layered around a fine wooden frame, a house newly built, waiting for memories and unborn stories to fill its every hallway, its every vein. Each hand has its destination, yet both manage to find each other, to exchange information, knowledge, talk to one another about what happens when fingers break and nails are torn, palms are rusted and joints turn to ash. How to let go of a metal handle if it burns, tear a piece of paper if it cuts, hold tightly to a puddle of lukewarm water. Two brown hands on a bus exchange information, silently plan a revolution, crack knuckles and tap a rhythm no one will understand. One will pull the cord, the other will wave a small goodbye.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Thank you.
I have a question. That was really very lovely. And I know that you read around town, like you go to open mics and things like that. Is that kind of what you've been doing? You've been watching for opportunities and putting yourself out there, which isn't easy. So way to go for sharing that your work around town. But I'm curious because I know that, Lynette, you're a professor.
Yeah.
And how amazing to have a professional writer, author, professor as your roommate.
I don't know if you would have always said that.
But I mean, it had to. I mean, do you feel like, and Venus too? I mean, Venus is a writer too, and is writing all these beautiful lyrics for her music. Do you often kind of share what you're making with these guys, or what is there? How do you guys share what you're doing and get each other's advice?
Yeah. We corner each other.
Yeah.
Okay, you got. Let me read this, and then it's like, okay,
Quick,
as long as I can read you this, and then we go back.
So there's like a barter system.
Oh yeah, total.
It is.
Total creative barter.
Oh, it's very synergistic, without a question.
Yeah, I think you're in a really wonderful spot, and that's great. And I'm sure you bring a lot of fresh perspectives too. Because like Lynette and Venus, how long have you guys been together?
32 years.
32 years.
Oh wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So it's probably really nice to have a young guy around who's also working in this creative sphere. And
And Anthony, you have a different perspective on both of our arts, and so you give different different feedback to both of us than either of us gives to the other.
I think just from my perspective, I value Anthony's input on my work, and then also because both Lynette and I have kind of been around a long time, we can be very honest in return on our critique of work. And I think because of that, and because we've been around each other for how many years now, the three of us can be very honest and very, very open and not worry about hurting each other's feelings. Well, and sometimes you hear something that you don't want to hear, and that is hard to take, but we trust each other, and so we can do that. And I think that's really important as a creative person to be able to do that.
Well, and it's something that I think our culture in this particular region has so little of, and that we need so much more of that. It's really, I think we tend to be like, that's great, that's great, that's great, and really always applauding whatever it is you're doing. But, to get that really authentic feedback and that, constructive criticism.
Well, it kind of depends. I'm just going to jump in here. I've been participating in writing groups for a number of years, and a good writing group will give you exactly that kind of important feedback. And I think, Anthony, finally through your school, especially in your senior year, you discovered a group of people that you could have that feedback group with.
Yeah.
And though, ironically, they're the creative nonfiction people.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
That's great.
But I don't think Venus has been able to experience that to the same level, because there's so much hero worship going on with what Venus is doing. So I've really encouraged you to reach out to people, and you've gotten some of that. But I think, isn't it mostly from the writing community that you're getting?
Yeah,
feedback?
I've been writing a memoir for a number of years, and that's not my main focus. So it's been a long process of distilling ideas in short pieces, and then I had to take a break from all of that while I was going through my audit hell for a number of years, and I was doing a blog up to that point, and that blog was being mined by the audit people to
which we
use
could spend
against
a whole
me.
other hour talking about, but I want to say that Lynette and Venus came out victorious.
Yeah, we did. We did. But it was hellish, and so it's taken a lot of things. But yes, I have been able to find a few people to bounce my chapters and things off of, and it's still slow going, but that has been the most. As far as songwriting, that's kind of you kind of have to do that on your own, and that's when I value the three of us being able to share things. And sometimes I'll just have to do it and then just present it and cross my fingers.
Yeah. Well, Lynette, I'm turning my gaze over to you.
Hello.
Hello. So I've heard some of your readings. I've always been very impressed by your work. You appear to me to be extremely prolific, in that you seem like you're constantly creating. I know that you had published a book this past year.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the new book?
It's called Approaching the Gate. It's my first ever collection of poems, and it came out in October 2014. It's doing pretty well. It won a Northeastern Minnesota Book Award for poetry just a couple of months ago. I got all these...
Holy Cow Press.
Holy Cow Press published it. Very respected poetry publisher in Minnesota who I courted. I sent him so many different versions of this manuscript, and he finally said yes.
That's great. Good for you.
So yeah. So I've been promoting that a lot, reading from it a lot, but I'm also starting to write new stuff, and it's kind of like that sophomore album thing. It's I need to create a lot of new work. So actually, I use the writing group system as a kind of a motivation to create new work. And then I'm also involved with a lot of performance readings just because I like to do that. That's part of my process, reading out loud in front of people to kind of get a sense of, okay, does this sound right? Do I need to cut some lines, and et cetera, et cetera. So I do a once a month thing called the Basso Poetry Company with a group of people. Sadly, just this last Thursday morning, technically, I guess, the leader of that whole group passed away rather suddenly. Kevin Brixius, he was sort of our MC, and a wonderful writer and songwriter and funny stand-up guy. And we're going to continue doing Basso for at least a couple of months. We perform on the second Thursday of the month at Dusty's Bar in Northeast Minneapolis. It's a kind of a mishmash of some readings and some music and a lot of improvisation. And in September, actually, we're hosting the Minnesota chapter of a National Beat Poetry Festival there, September 10th. So I don't know exactly the time start yet. It'll probably be 8:30, possibly a little bit earlier, but
and Dusty's, they have a website, right? I mean, they kind of do a lot of events. I'm not sure if they do. I guess we can find out. But I've seen other readings there. I think that's really cool that whoever is like activating that space is really bringing a lot of creative stuff through.
It's kind of a two-fisted reading series. It's just this shotgun style bar.
Yeah.
We got to clear out a booth in order to make that the stage, and it's definitely.
And sometimes you need to like call on the patrons and say, "Hey, I'm reading something. Shut up."
Yeah, good.
I suspect we're going to be able to keep the Basso thing going for a number of years. And I wanted to say that Anthony has also been at Basso and participated. Mm-hmm. Anthony's also been a featured reader on Queer Voices with Intermedia.
That's excellent.
Yes.
And you had poetry on a stick.
Or a flyer. Anyway.
Something like that. Yeah, at the Pride Festival.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, that was the poem that I just read. That was on the little flyer that they were passing out from the Intermedia booth.
That's wonderful.
Along with a bunch of other wonderful poets.
Very cool. So, Lynette, tell me some of the themes of the book that you published, or what is kind of...
Well, everything is loosely based on love, but love takes many different forms, and we tend to think of romantic love. There's a little bit of that in there. Most of it is grappling with relationships, not unlike the White Horses song.
Oh, dear.
But then a lot of it is kind of broadened out to love for the world, love for other people. A lot of animal poems. I am inspired by animals, and I think of animals as equal/equivalent beings with humans, and so I like to explore things from an animal's perspective quite a bit.
I love that. I was obsessed with studying animals who I think are maybe perhaps more emotionally sophisticated than we are. So yeah, that's cool. Mm-hmm. That's very neat. Did you bring something with you today?
I did.
To share with us? Awesome.
Let's see. Okay. I think I'm just gonna. Here we go. Yeah, I'll read this. This is called Apogee. Like the highest point in the sky. I lifted the iron latch to open the gate, to let the night air flow down the hill, and the star-filled sky splashed across familiar darkness with so much unfamiliar light, glinting particles, larger, distant, blazing beacons, gleaming sky krill, fantastic, bold, luminous, or slow raindropped gems suspended in dawn, day, morning spider webs, shimmering, catching light, making light, distant sources of all light. No impediments, no dark mountain, but all fabric, visible and hidden, all unseen, availing. Unnamed constellations held my ankles, my fingers. They grasped my ankles, touched each metatarsal, caressed each eyelid, pressed and parted my lips, and the sky swam me into the twinkling night.
Wow, what a beautiful picture that painted. That's lovely. Thank you for sharing. Would you like to read one more? Am I putting you on the spot?
No. Here's one that's completely the opposite.
Okay.
This is called The Waters of New York. I don't know if I've read this out loud yet. The waters of New York, where we sold each other down a rainstorm river for a laugh, where a young man wept, convulsing on the walk between avenues A and B, where we teased it out and floated from the window by the fire escape, verifying all the room's good ghosts, where Darwin's charts and Mozart's notes touched nerves that sought small vertebrae. Merriment, moth wing, fish mouth, fish teeth, eye socket, glassine orb, a kiss. The healing sound still quivers.
Awesome. Lynette, where can I get my hands on some of your work?
Let me think. How can you do that? I believe I'm also on Amazon. And I know for sure that there are still copies of my book at Subtext Books, which is just relocated to St. Paul. You can certainly request it from any bookstore that doesn't already have it in stock.
It is stocked regionally around.
It's stocked regionally in the bookstores. That was like one of the cool things about going with Holy Cow Day.
We found it down in Iowa.
Yes. You could, if you go to Prairie Lights Bookstore in Iowa City, you'll find a few copies there that I discovered happily and I signed.
I was going to say, did you sign them when you found them?
Did.
That's so cool. Oh, that's excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming. I want to thank all of you for coming.
Can I say one more thing?
Please do.
I am doing a benefit tonight. Not tonight. Wednesday night, July 15th for J. Otis Powell at Intermediate Arts. It starts at 7 p.m.
Awesome. So at 7 p.m. at Intermediate Arts, it's what is J
Otis Powell is a local poet and one of my mentors who pretty much taught me a lot of the things I know about how to do music and poetry together. He was the founder of Right on Radio on KFAI and used to work at the Loft as an outreach coordinator. He's had a lot of health issues in the last couple of years, and so this is a benefit to help him with some of those and help move him to housing where he can do a better healing. And there are tons of people are involved with this. Shay Cage, E.G. Bailey, Bill Cotman, dance people, music people, all across the board.
Oh, that'll be a wonderful event. Come on out, listeners, and let's support this guy. Thank you so much, Lynette Rainey Grandel and Anthony Ceballos. Thank you for sharing your poem today, too. And Venus DeMars, who has a show coming up 16th, 17th, 18th at the Southern, and also venusdemars.com, right? Yes. Okay. I want to thank all of you for joining me for our first live streaming Joan of Art podcast, where we investigate and celebrate people who make art. Next week, we'll be interviewing Tim Carroll, a local artist in Minneapolis, and Leslie Polivka, who is also a costume designer, and we're going to talk about the MUMA.
Yes.
Minneapolis Underground.
I got a little section in that.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.